Back in 2009, holy shit, that's 10 years ago, I was just a little kid watching TV when I saw this ad come on.
It's over, Joker.
Over? Why, my dear delusional Dark Knight, it hasn't even begun.
I initially thought, it's okay, but it was actually my dad who said, hey, that looks pretty cool, and a few years later I ended up grabbing it. Of course, back in those days I wasn't a huge gamer, so I didn't keep up with the new releases or anything, but as I transitioned into the full-fledged basement dweller I am today, I decided it was finally time to look at Batman Arkham Asylum. While playing the game, I was really introduced to the character's rogues gallery. I had never watched much Batman material growing up because most of the time it scared me, and can you blame me? Look at this! You're telling me this didn't make you shit yourself?
Get the fuck out of here, bitch!
Bottom line, this game was the first piece of Batman material that really got me into the character, so with that in mind, I figure I could try my best to convince you to play Batman Arkham Asylum. As per usual, I'll be splitting this up into presentation, gameplay, and story. With that in mind, let's get into the presentation. As far as graphics go, this game looks pretty decent, though I am playing on the PlayStation 4 remaster. And sadly, I'm not sure if this is only on the remaster, but Batman looks like a friggin' dope. But aside from that, the game looks great. Just don't look at Batman's face. The stuff that always stood out to me was the way in which all the environments were made. Little details in different sections of Arkham Asylum made it feel alive, and the game's environment changes depending on how far you've progressed in the story. Blood is splattered on the walls, scratches and stains litter the hallways, and all the inmates have their little straitjackets, and all of these details come together to form a believable asylum that never fails to give me the heebie-jeebies. Environments range from intensive treatment centers, underground sewers are actually fun to explore, botanical gardens to bat caves to scarecrow nightmares, and so on. Just to give an example of the attention to detail, let's take a look at one of those scarecrow nightmare missions. Of course they're designed to feel like a bad dream, but the coolest part for me was before they began. Upon multiple playthroughs, I began questioning how we actually get to these nightmare sequences. Don't we have to be injected with the fear toxin? Well, this game has it covered. It's a detail I'm sure a lot of you, including myself, missed when playing. Before each of the scarecrow encounters, take a good hard look at your surroundings, and you may notice that there's an ominous gas filling the room. Isn't that mind-blowing? And of course Batman coughs a little before these segments, which I also had no idea was due to him inhaling the gas. Okay, excuse that tangent for a while we go back to the presentation. Audio in this game is great. Punches feel bone-crushing, hearing inmates make small talk with each other makes the game way more immersive, and the sounds of your gadgets are so satisfying. Listen to these sounds for a second. That's some gourmet ASMR. The music isn't very memorable except for its ominous opening theme, and of course I can't talk about sounds without mentioning the voice acting. The voice acting in this game has been praised to all hell, so I won't go into too much detail, but all I will say is that the voice acting is top-notch specifically for Batman and Joker.
Just not yet.
As far as designs go, I would say that all the designs for characters like Joker, Harley Quinn, Bane, Scarecrow, and all the others have a realistic feel to them and do a great job of blending both real-life designs and comic designs together. You can tell that this is a comic-inspired game, from the hand-drawn gadget icons to the many hand-drawn artworks for the characters. It makes sense that Harley would be wearing a nurse outfit, as she probably stole it from one of the nurses around the asylum. The way characters affect the asylum is shown throughout the game too. After Joker makes his escape, he begins spraying graffiti on the walls, and eventually as he reaches the asylum control room, he begins to plaster his face on the monitors and taunts Batman over the intercom. Poison Ivy begins spreading plants everywhere, destroying environments and buildings, and even Batman changes over the course of the game, with his suit and cape having scratches and holes from his many battles that take place. The animations all look beautiful, ranging from the plants to Batman's cape to his running animation to Joker's little dances to the weird lucid Scarecrow dreams. As far as polish goes, I didn't see any game-breaking bugs, though there were some physics issues with the enemies, and this bug that crashed my game. The game's wonderful attention to detail is a big reason why it's so replayable, because most of the time you don't notice it because the gameplay is so good. Speaking of which, the gameplay. Gameplay is another area in which the game shines. Typically, there are three main types of gameplay: Predator, Combat, and Puzzles. Whenever you go into a room, you're doing at least one of these things, and in most cases, two or more at once. So let me break this down. Predator gameplay is all about being dropped into a room full of goons with fully automatic guns, and your goal is to take them out using different gadgets and silent takedowns. Speaking of gadgets, there's plenty to choose from batarangs to grapple guns to explosive gel to cryptographic sequencers, and many more. As the game goes on, you unlock new ways to take down goons, such as hanging from a gargoyle in order to perform an inverted takedown, or unlocking multiple batarangs that can be thrown at once in order to knock down multiple enemies. These Predator rooms get harder as the game goes on by adding more complicated environments. The first few Predator rooms are just little boxes with gargoyles to swing from, while the late game rooms often have more thugs, more complex environments with less nooks and crannies to hide in, and eventually the thugs start wearing heart monitors and make a noise whenever they're knocked unconscious, so you can't hang around too long after taking somebody out. Even later into the game, thugs start putting proximity mines on vantage points in order to stop you from sticking to the shadows, and these changes force you to adapt to the environment, which keeps gameplay fresh and challenging even on the harder difficulties. Of course, you do have some more advantages such as detective mode. Detective mode is a mode that changes your view upon the world with X-ray vision and everything. It also highlights how many hostiles are in the room, how many and which of them are armed, and where they are. Detective mode can also be used outside of battle in order to find potentially useful objects such as vantage points, escape routes, or buttons that can be activated in some sort of contraption. The Predator challenges end up being some of my favorites, and this is due to the fear system. As enemies continue to find their friends unconscious, they begin to become more and more scared, leading them to tremble when walking, fire randomly at a rat running by, and eventually, as their fear escalates as shown by your heads up display, they'll always be looking around them, and this includes always looking behind themselves, checking grates in the floor, and shooting at possible vantage points. This makes you feel like such a badass, and I always found myself restarting whenever I was found in order to go through a room acting as a ghost. The way the gadgets work in these Predator sections also adds replay value. It was fun to put explosive gel behind a wall, bait an enemy towards that wall through throwing a batarang at it, and then detonating the gel in order to bring the wall down on him. You could also use a line launcher to zip across a room in order to blindside somebody with a boot to the head. And things like this make the Predator challenges so good. Now that we have the Predator gameplay sections finished, let's move on to the more action-packed hand-to-hand combat. Combat in this game has been argued to just be button mashing, and to an extent I agree. You strike with the press of the square button and you can counter with the press of the triangle button. It is true that in the early game rooms you can get away with just spamming square until the counter icon shows up and then spamming triangle. Though as the game goes on, there are more difficult variants of enemies that, for example, can only be hit once you stun them with your cape, and some enemies with electric cattle prods that can't be attacked up front, so you have to jump behind them in order to get some hits in.
You try and get past me, Bats, and I will fry you!
I would say that a decent counter argument for the whole button mashing claim would be the eventual critical hit upgrade. Eventually, as you upgrade your skills, abilities, and suit through the acquisition of Wayne Tech points, upgrade points earned through doing essentially everything, you'll soon unlock critical hits. Critical hits are easy to explain. If you avoid button mashing and instead play with a set rhythm, then you'll do more damage and fill your special meter faster. By the end of the game, there will be not only more enemies, but harder ones, so doing that extra damage is key to surviving. Your special meter allows you to pull off special takedowns, and that's about it. It's weird how such a simple fighting system is so satisfying. I mean, there were 3 more Arkham games made after this, so how could this system not get boring eventually? I think it's chalked up to the animations and the sounds of Batman's fist getting lodged in somebody's ear. Finally, there are plenty of puzzles throughout the game. There are puzzles to be solved in fights, such as what enemies to try and take down first, or what type of gadget works best for taking down an enemy without being seen in the Predator sections. But what I'm talking about here are the actual puzzles, if you get what I mean. Puzzles like searching the environment for a way to get out of a room, or using the cryptographic sequencer in order to break open a security system. These puzzles most of the time weren't too hard, though if you really like a challenge, then you will love the Riddler challenges. There are hundreds of Riddler challenges hidden around the island, and they range from easy to straight up impossible. Some are the riddles that can be solved by scanning a certain object. For example, one riddle was, "Don't cut yourself on this sharply observed portrait," and the solution was just to scan a painting of the head of the asylum, Quincy Sharp. Some other quote-unquote riddles are just about picking up a trophy, though in this case the puzzle is just getting to the trophy through some platforming or the smart use of gadgets. These puzzles in particular will keep you busy for most likely longer than the actual story itself, and for the most part, it's good fun. Since we've now established the core mechanics of the gameplay, it's important that I explain in which way these mechanics are used. For example, you'll be running into Joker at the beginning, who will trap you in a room with a bunch of thugs, and upon defeating them, you'll have to use your detective mode in order to find a way out. Or with the Scarecrow nightmares, which by the way are terrifying. You have to sneak around using your stealth abilities in order to not be caught by Scarecrow's deathly gaze, or else you're treated to this.
I've got you now.
You'll need to use your stealth skills, puzzle solving skills, and even combat skills in order to defeat him. Scarecrow is one of the many bosses in the game, and now that we're on the topic, I may as well tell you about some of the other bosses. Some people criticize the bosses for being too generic, but I felt they were pretty decent. You defeat Bane by causing him to charge into you, and once he hits his big dumb head against a brick wall, you can jump on his back and cut the tubes that are supplying him with the steroid-like drug called Titan. Poison Ivy is defeated through throwing batarangs at her kaiju-sized plant monster while dodging the many deadly spores being shot at you. Even the final boss is defeated using, Never mind, we'll get to that later. The gameplay is structured so well that I never got bored. At times you may feel like you're not sure how far into the story you are. Well, let me show you something. You may notice that as you play you can enter the visiting room where there is a Joker mannequin wearing a TV as a head, and through that TV you can speak to the Joker about the many bad guys you've taken down. You may notice that as you play, a Joker type memorial is being built by these thugs right outside the visitor's room, and this is actually a way to gauge how far you are into the story. As you get closer to the finale, the structure will be closer to being finished. Little things like this made the gameplay so much better than it really needed to be, and again, this game is 10 years old. As far as difficulty goes, I would say it's pretty reasonable, as there is a good incline in difficulty as you do get better, and as you get cocky about your skills, like, yeah, a room full of 10 dudes, no problem. The game tosses a new enemy at you that always keeps you on your toes. Early game mini-bosses such as the Titans become basic enemies as the game goes on, which makes you feel like you're truly getting stronger and better. That's pretty much all I have to say about the gameplay, so now we should probably get into the story. If you've been convinced to play this game, then stop the video now and come back after playing it. I will be spoiling everything as well as giving my opinion on certain controversial moments, and with that being said, let's get into it. The story begins with the Joker being taken into Arkham Asylum by the big bad boy, and upon entering we find out that the Joker actually surrendered without much of a fight, almost as if he wanted to be captured. Batman, being suspicious, continues to follow the Joker with the police until eventually being stopped. Along the way we hear that all the prisoners from the Blackgate prison have been transferred to Arkham Asylum temporarily. At this point Joker takes out some guards, and before Batman can get through he locks everyone out and begins to taunt Batman before running off. As you run through, you encounter a trail of the Joker's mayhem and eventually come across Victor Zsasz. And in this room, you're shown the basics of the Predator gameplay, and upon taking him out, we get a message from Harley Quinn, and she... Oh, shit.
This bitch got some big-ass fucking titties, man.
So, anyways, while we're on the hunt for Joker, we finally have him cornered, and he gets away. As he does that, he unleashes a big hulking enemy. After shitting yourself because you don't know what to do, this big hulking enemy ends up having a heart attack. Joker explains that whatever was causing this inmate to hulk out looks like it needed more testing. After he leaves, Batman decides to chase down Harley Quinn, and after he sees her, she drops an elevator on him. And we continue the chase through the intensive treatment building. After taking down a bunch of thugs using your newly learned stealth abilities, you eventually get to a dead end where the Riddler patches into your comms and gives you your first riddle. After solving it, you leave the building and are finally outside with a great view of the Botanical Gardens and the Arkham Mansion. Unfortunately, before you can take the time to look around, there's an alert being sent to you that the Batmobile is under attack, and upon getting there, we find that Commissioner Gordon has been taken, and we track him down using our detective mode. In order to follow the path further, we have to pick up some explosive gel from the Batmobile that can be used to take down weakened concrete. After following the trail to the next part of the island, we end up in a building that has been blocked off by Harley Quinn. This serves as one of the cooler puzzles, as easily solved by searching around for an alternate entrance and making use of her new explosive gel gadget in order to get in. Upon entering, we embark on a quest to save some doctors and Commissioner Gordon. Using our stealth and beatdown abilities, and upon rescuing Dr. Young, we obtain her research and continue until eventually reaching an elevator. At this point, you hear this.
Prepare to face your fears. All of them!
And oop, see, look, I told you. There's some shit right there. Look at that. There's the gas. Anyways, after exiting the elevator, we see the effects of Scarecrow's gas from literally the outside looking in. And we eventually see Gordon being dragged away. And you may notice that Batboy's eyes are all glowing. Ooh, spooky. After tracking down the body, you try to call your woman in the chair, Oracle, but there's no service this far down. Eventually, you walk into the morgue, and after seeing nothing in here, you know... Get out of here. Get out of here. Okay, well, that's all the convincing I need. I'm heading out now, boys, and, okay, I guess there's something in here we need to find. Maybe in these suspicious body bags? Oh, hey, Dad. Hey, Mom. Oh, hey... Okay, I'm good. At this point, you've been transported into Scarecrow's world, where you have to sneak around a bit and shine a spotlight on him. After you're done tweaking off the Batman brand DMT, you make your way into the next part of the building, where you have to sneak up on Harley Quinn and rescue Commissioner Gordon. As you put the thugs to bed, tuck them in, read them a story, and kiss them goodnight, you may notice that there's a weird body in a room you can't access. After freeing Gordon, we take After a boss fight that's as easy as 1, 2, and 3, we're put in a corner, and as a last-ditch effort, Batman sends a Batmobile into the water, taking Bane down with him. Wait, wouldn't Bane die from this? I mean, he's... whatever, never mind, let's move on. So in order to analyze Dr. Young's research, we need to head to Batman's backup Batcave within Arkham Island, and after heading in there and getting a new gadget, the grapple gun, we head through the sewers and we reach this door where... Okay, heading the other way, we run through some caves and head to the Arkham Mansion, where we follow Dr. Young's trail until we find her research and we burn it. While on the way here, we find out that Dr. Young has been working with the Joker, though she didn't know it was him, and she was developing the Titan formula, and after seeing the potential issues that came with it, she decided to back out, which is why the Joker has it out for her. Before we leave the room, you might notice that some more gas is seeping in. Ooh, here we go. After walking down an extremely long hallway that gradually turns into Crime Alley, we get transformed into Baby Bruce, who has a really weirdly large head. Anyways, we get sent into another Scarecrow nightmare sequence. Do what you did last time and shine the spotlight on him and you'll end up at the top of the mansion, where the only way down is to drop down this massive bell. Thankfully, this opens a new area of the mansion, and once in there, we find Dr. Young, who is being held hostage by Zsasz, and we save her with ease. Thank God we saved her. It'd be a shame if she Oh, that sucks. Well, after that explosion, we're knocked down pretty hard, and while this happens, Harley Quinn comes in to taunt us with Quincy Sharp as hostage. After a little while, we decide it's finally time to get up and at him and track her down. We follow a trail left by Quincy to a medical facility, and after saying hi to Poison Ivy, we finally find Quincy, and upon freeing him, we're trapped in by Harley and Joker. We're then shown some footage of Harley letting Ivy out of her cage, and after seeing this, we set up our new gadget, the remote hacking device, in order to get out. Unfortunately, Harley also set all of the insane inmates free too. After tracking her down and taking out a few of her goons, we go on a wild goose chase until entering a room where she has some guards being held hostage, and we can only stop her by using our new gadget. After saving them, we chase her further until finally cornering her and about 50 of her goons. After throwing her in a cell, we decide to head to the Botanical Gardens to track down Poison Ivy. As we make our way through, we see the Joker, who taunts us before running off, and after catching up with him while doing a few beatdowns, he shows off his improved Titan formula. After he gets away, we stop the two Titans, and it seems we're stuck. Thankfully, we have a solution as the Batwing drops off the line launcher so that we can escape and talk to Ivy. We basically tell her not to do anything stupid, or we will come for her next. She immediately ignores us and proceeds to start tearing the island apart. Unfortunately, we have more important plans, and instead we need to head to Killer Croc's lair in order to obtain some chemicals necessary to cure the Joker's Titan formula. As we make our way through, we have our final interaction with Scarecrow. Remember that bug from earlier? That wasn't a bug, it was actually another illusion from the Scarecrow fear toxin. Upon the game restarting, we're shown the opening sequence of the game with the roles reversed between Batman and his rogues gallery. Joker then pops you one right in between the eyes and we get a fake out game over, and upon hitting retry, we rise from our grave where we enter the Scarecrow Nightmare Dreamland with some really weird visuals this time. After some more Scarecrow action, we now need to chase him down as he threatens to take the heavily concentrated dose of fear toxin that he has and put it into the sewers that will directly affect the population in Gotham. He nearly gets away with it too, but Killer Croc comes in and decides to be a true homie, taking a big old bite out of Scarecrow. Back to our main plan, we get to Croc's lair and we have to run around and find some spores for the cure, but be careful. If you're too loud, then... Just make sure to crouch and be ready for anything, and you should be fine. Croc thinks he has us cornered, but in fact we pull the carpet from underneath him and he falls into the deeper sewer, I assume. Or he's dead, I don't know. With spores in hand, we head back to Ivy as her plans started destroying the island are getting a little too out of hand. Once we get back to her, we engage in a wonderfully tedious boss fight that ends in her going into a quote-unquote explosive-induced state of unconsciousness. Not dead. Now that we have that out of the way, the Joker says he's got our big party ready, and there's even fireworks telling you where to go. After getting to the party house, you'll notice that no one is hostile. Even entering the visitors room, there's non-hostile thugs with party hats clapping for you, as according to the guest list, you're the guest of honor. But something seems off. That's better. Once you enter, you engage in another talk with the big joke man until he... Oh, geez, okay. There's a bomb going off, so we should probably get out of... Oh. Whew, that was gnarly. Let's get back to taking down the Joker. In typical fashion, he has a ton of goons ready to soften you up. His final trick up his sleeve is his recapture of Commissioner Gordon, and he points a gun loaded with a dose of Titan formula straight to his head, though Batman jumps in the way in order to save him. Disappointingly, Batman fights the change and stays in his normal form, which makes Joker pretty angry. So angry that he shoots himself with the Titan formula, and at this point we can discuss the ending. A point of controversy to say the least. I'll just let you watch this.
Arkham Asylum remains under lockdown, its staff at the mercy of the rampaging inmates. Just 10 minutes ago, we received this taped message.
Greetings, Gotham! Joker here! Arkham is mine! Soon I'll unleash madness untold onto the streets of Gotham. But first, direct your eyes to the rooftops and witness the final destruction of your dear
circling the tower since the... Wait! There! Joker is making his move!
Showtime, Batman!
So personally, I don't mind this. People argue that the final fight shouldn't have been a dumbed down hulking mass, but I personally don't mind it. I do wish Batman gave into the Titan change in order to have a huge hulking fight between the two, but Big Bat Boy uses the cure on himself. Why? I don't know. This fight happens to be one of the easiest in the game, as all you do is just run away, fight some goons, pull Joker down, hit him a few times, and rinse and repeat until finished. Batman drops him into an electrical generator, and as a final blow, he puts some explosive gel on his hand for an explosive punch, which takes the Joker down for good. Everyone gets captured and all is well, or at least for everyone except the Joker. There's even a secret post-credit scene that features either Croc, Scarecrow, or Bane grabbing a box of Titan. Overall, I would say this game was great, and it was actually the gold standard for comic book superhero games until its sequel, Arkham City, came out. There is so much to love here, from all the references to characters from the Batman universe, to the many interviews with the villains that give you more insight into their lives, and even to the small attention to detail. The gameplay, while super simple, is super satisfying, and there's enough mix-ups throughout the game to keep you interested and challenged throughout the entire game. And that's not even getting into the challenge maps that can be really difficult and offers a ton of replay value while trying to optimize your combos and predator runs. The story was super fun and exciting, and I never found myself wanting to skip any section. I really appreciate how the story didn't sequel bait either, except for an Easter egg that took years to find. The story is wrapped up nice, and it feels like it could have been ripped straight from a comic. The game would go on to be compared to every other superhero game that came out after, and its combat system still influences games today, such as the 2018 Spider-Man PS4. So with that, I've done everything I can to convince you to play this game. If you're not convinced by now, then it's probably not for you. If you have a game that you think would be a better recommendation, then please feel free to let me know in the comments. I thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this, then you can check out my video on LEGO Marvel Super Heroes 2, My Friend Pedro, or Gravity Rush 2. There's also a link to the entire playlist in the description, along with a link to my Twitch channel and some Twitch highlight compilations. With that being said, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.